All right, this is the Dark Horse Podcast, and I forgot your name. What is that? Name?
My name is Dan.
Dan Greenstein.
It's funny you say that because I went to apply for a job one time, the sales and this ed tech.
All right, the story's too long. Next. You know what this is like? Between two ferns. That's what I'm trying to. That was funny, right?
This is it. No,
All right,
so
but
this guy-
seriously, that was just joking.
Okay, we're gonna start now.
Yeah, that was funny, right?
Well, the story was this guy, this big ass Texas in charge of VP CRO, was like, "How do I know that Dan Greenstein is gonna be really good?" And I looked at him, like skipping a beat. I'm like, "Actually, Dan Greenjew is gonna crush it." And he spat out everything.
That's funny.
Motherfucker. Anyway,
Let's
go. Let's start.
All right, so podcast starts now. Okay, for the person editing, that'll be you. Actually, Matt will be taking home the hard drive and editing all week. So this is a Dark Horde podcast, and my guest today is not an ordinary guest. I don't even know where to start with this guy, Dan Greenwald, who's been a big force in my life for, I don't know, maybe 7 years, I would say.
I think it's going on 8 now.
8. We got to pin out a date.
I did. I found it.
How?
I don't know why, because I was looking at emails, searching for you.
Oh, interesting.
And
Good idea.
I think it was around 8 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we had that connection from like really day one, and we only grew closer and closer.
Yeah.
Matt, our engineer, is getting a little teary-eyed, but we've been very close.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
appreciate you and our friendship.
Yeah. I think, listen, it's been a handful of friends in my life that is definitely part of the inner circle, but also can help push me in my growth. And I think the same thing for you, and I think that's what makes a friendship, maybe even more than a friendship, but life is short, and you want to be around people that are going to help push.
You know, I was reading Eric Schmidt's new book
Mm-hmm.
back in April, and I forgot the name of it, but it was about coaches. Eric Schmidt had a coach, and a lot of successful Silicon Valley entrepreneurs had a coach, and I thought about you a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. While I was reading that book, I'm like, and Eric Schmidt was talking about his coach, and Steve Jobs. He had the same coach Steve Jobs had, and I probably thought about you like every page. I'm like, that's Dan Greenwald. You haven't read that book?
Mm-mm.
You gotta check it out.
Mm.
It's really good.
You have an extra one for me, right?
We probably have a few extras in this building. James interviewed Eric
Yeah, I
a few months ago
I
on
was
Stand Up New
somewhere. I
York.
was away when that happened. I wanted to come.
Oh yeah, you should read it. I'll get you a copy. But I mean, I think you're such a good friend because you're also a coach. I mean, I'm not saying you're a coach for you do that as a living. I'm just saying the way you treat a friendship, like you cheer your friends on, which you don't see. At least people I grew up with are not like that.
Listen, I care about the people I care about, and I see what I see in people, whatever it is that I see, and to stoke the love flames. Matt is cringing. To stoke the love flames here. No, like you're a truth seeker, whether you want to call that or not, but that's how I see it. And I try to surround myself or be around people, or I'm drawn towards people, and you're also super cynical and you don't like a lot of people, which I also appreciate.
I like Matt, even though he doesn't like me.
Yeah, well, Matt is a likable guy. Between his hair and his beard and his plaid shirts he wears, he's very likable, you know?
Yeah.
But
I gotta get Matt on the podcast.
Totally.
Break some ice.
Yeah.
I feel like there's friction and tension sometimes.
By the way, do you see how Donnie, as soon as it gets real about him, he tries to veer away from it? It's either that or he grabs his phone.
Or take out my phone. Exactly.
Grabs his phone,
Yeah.
his safety net.
See, you know me.
Dude, I know you very well.
But where does that your approach to friendship and cheering your friends on, was your dad like that?
I'm not sure I would say cheering your friends. That's how you see it. I say I just invest in people, right? And
Were you always like that, as
was-
far as you can remember?
I've always been like that, and especially the like really hungry people,
Mhm.
people that want more, want to do more, want to be more. Because I've always been that person from a very young age. I remember thinking about, all those stories. I was thinking about this the other day. All of the biblical stories, all the movies in which there's a hero. That just got me. That fanned my flames. I always knew that I had more. I had more in me. I had more capability than where I was, and I think you're the same way. I think you know that too, and that's always been inside of you, as we have discussed before. And I think that's the deeper connection that we have. That life is really short. As far as my dad goes, my dad knew how to respect everyone. He had a drugstore up in the Poconos, but I always watched how he was able to speak to all sorts of different types of people, right? And I really valued that. I learned about that, and as far as what
the way you interact with people, you learned a lot of that from watching your dad.
I think so.
Because I've noticed, like, when we've been out a lot, the way you know how to deal with people from all walks of life. You appreciate no matter where they come from. It's like you could be in their own shoes and relate to them.
Yeah, I think
and understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, it's totally. Yeah, I think so. Like, empathy is a very strong trait of mine, for good and bad. Sometimes I feel things that I wish I didn't feel, right? But I also the way that I see a thread between all people. All people. There's a similar thread that I see right away, and I connect with it right away, and that's what gets me excited. The realness, the more authentic a person, the more I'm drawn towards them. Whether it's in music, whether it's in art, whether it's just someone I meet on the street, whether it's we're going out, we're talking, whatever it is, that's what draws me. And that's also what made me an awesome teacher, to be honest, right? Is that the flip side is the person you're kind of talking to, presenting to, connecting with, they feel it too. There's something inside that you're drawn towards. And I'm not saying it's a me per se, but I'm drawn towards that, and then it just keeps going. It grows back and forth. And
before we get to what you're currently doing with your company 3010, you were a teacher. You were in ed tech before that, and you were a teacher before that. What did you study in college?
What did I study in college? Philosophy and religion. And got a master's.
When you were in elementary school or high school, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
No, I thought I grew up with a stutter, and that caused a lot of shame for me. And throughout my early teens, adolescence, I was like, at least I could drive. I could drive a truck. I don't have to speak. I'm a really good driver. I could drive a truck.
So you thought about a lot that you couldn't be in certain professions because of your stuttering issue.
Well, I just had a lot of fear and shame associated with it,
but you were always like, at least I can do this, at least I can do that.
Yeah. But I also knew that deep down inside, I knew that I had so much more, and I wanted to be more. I wanted to do more, and I had a lot, and bringing it to now full circle, especially I just sent you a text yesterday or 2 days ago about the overall productivity of the last year and a half. For me, I know also for you, but it's been off the charts.
And why is that?
Because I think a lot of
you would say the last year and a half was the most productive time in your life?
To some extent, of me doing what I really want, of me just activating and not letting stories get in the way of why I can't do it or why I shouldn't do it, or just really fueling that. And I think a lot of it had to do with you. I think, I'll talk about me, whether I had stuff to do with you and your growth, but which I'm sure is the case. So fuck you. But I decided. Listen, I came out of a good 5 years of a lot of people dying around me, including my mom and dad, two very close friends of mine, even more, other friends that were under 40. And it hit me with life is really short. What do I want? And I know the specific place I was, in Israel with my wife. We were drinking a bottle of wine, smoking a joint on a balcony, and it all just hit me of, holy shit, I'm not physically strong right now. That's my start. I need to go home, come back, and I need to get in really strong, physical shape, which that just triggered everything. It just moved everything to be like, hey, what is my structure? What do I need to do? How do I stay super focused in what I really want, keep me out of my own way of overthinking, which I tend to do, and show me a way of where I can measure how well I'm doing towards getting what it is I want that's not revolving around my own personal, emotional well-being. And that's where...
And that's where your new company evolved
30-10-0.
out of 30-10-0.
Yeah, listen...
That you're applying that method, and...
Well, I was applying that method... Well,
You applied that method to yourself, and it's proven to work with yourself, and you're trying to, or you have been bringing that to other people.
And then, the story goes is that people I was consulting with, founders, leaders of companies, instead of doing the classic consulting growth hacking model, they're, as a teacher, you try to use your own self to teach people ideas. I was showing them how I do what I do, and they were like, forget about this like consulting that we hired you. I want that. I'll pay you for that. I'll pay you for that. And God bless the fact that I have a curriculum design background, and as you know, I love building structures and processes in order to hit certain goals. I love that. I was able to do that really quick, and then people started not just paying me for it. They were full of gratitude for the value that they got.
And you wouldn't work with only anyone, right? Like, what do you see when you meet with someone who would potentially be your client and use your tool?
Yeah.
What does that ideal person look like?
The ideal person.
What's the profile of a 30-10 user?
A 30-10-0 user.
30-10-0 user.
Someone who's really hungry. Someone who wants more. Who wants change, they just don't know how to do it or in what way to do it. Or they've tried to do it, but things haven't been grounded into their actual life. That's the ideal. And that, we found that it's been very helpful. Entrepreneurs, with entrepreneurs, it's really, for whatever reason, has helped ground them and move them forward in all sorts of different ways. And we also applied the same methodology to different companies to help them, unearth what is the core purpose, really core purpose, pushing it up higher. What's your 30,000? What do you really want? I know you want to make a lot of money. I know you want to be successful. I know you want to be respected. But what do you really want and why? From there, we're able, if that's there, we can map out, as long as there's a 30, we can map out a 10 and the zeros in order to achieve.
So walk me through it.
Yeah, sure.
We just meet. Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I need help. I'm juggling a bunch of businesses. There's a lot of things I need help with, including company culture and my own self-discipline.
Got it.
I don't work out.
Got it.
I don't eat healthy.
Got it.
I don't set an alarm in the morning. I don't sometimes brush my teeth at night. I just go straight to bed. I don't wash my face. Help me.
So
I'm
eager. I don't know what to do.
I know what the right thing to do is. I know in order for me to be in peak state, I know I need to set an alarm, right?
Mhm.
And I know I need to wake up early. I know I should probably wash my face and brush my teeth before I go to bed, and not watch my phone up until a half a second before I fall asleep. I know I need to invest more time and energy into working with employees. Um,
Got it. So,
I know that's the right thing to do,
but it's not actively doing it.
but
You're not doing it. It's not
I'm
getting
not.
done.
I'm not doing it. I'm thinking about it. I think about it.
So cool. So I'll take you through it. First thing, when someone doesn't do something, it's either they don't know how or they don't want to. Strip it down any which way. You might not feel it. Listeners might not know.
Does I don't want
You
to.
and I-
Could that be out of like I'm lazy?
no that you want something else more.
So it's not like I'm just lazy to put
That's
that
bullshit.
time in.
That's bullshit. That's easy. What we do is listen.
It's too hard.
Well, it's not too hard. It's the fact that the mind does things. It's the
Mhm.
mind creates stories to tell us that we're too lazy, or I can't do this, or I can't do. It's what we do with 3010 is that the goal is that we help you uncover what you really, really, really want. And when you uncover what you really want, it becomes a power plan for you to go off and get it, especially if there's a game plan for you to follow. Because it goes from what do I do to how badly do you want it. And what we do with 3010, we help you. We start off with you go through, you answer 5 quick questions, get you in the groove, help you start to think about what you need to think about. Then we guide you through what's called Uncovering Your 30, in which you learn about this concept of story watch. It's like, I know that you're a big basketball guy and you were a tennis guru back in the day. The story watch, what it does, it helps protect your mind from the stories that you don't want.
Is Storywatch a part of 3010?
Story watch is a part of 3010. It's the terminology that we use. That's the skill set, the ability to help you recognize your stories before they turn into action, like your sports,
Or they turn into your own worst enemy.
or they turn into action that you don't want.
Right.
Right? Story, action. It's going to turn into actions. The question is, how do you cultivate the stories that are the right stories, so you don't have to implore the story watch to be like, hey, okay, I know I'm not someone that I can't build a business, or I can't manage people, or I can't. Well, how's that story helping you get what you really want? It's not. So let it go. And that sounds kind of simplified, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. But more so, what drives all of it is, what do you really, really want? And it's not just the generic air. Air is good. I want money. I want a family. I want love. Everybody wants that. What do you really want? And if you could stay in tune with that, in touch with that, if you could say it and it comes from your inside, and then you have a game plan for personally what works for you to keep you in a strong state, you're able to do it.
How do you uncover what you really want?
How do I, or did I?
How did you?
Listen, I've been obsessed with figuring this out for years, because as I said, I grew up with a stutter, so I was obsessed with, how do I change myself? How do I change? What makes people change? What leads people to change? So I've been obsessed with this. That led me into the world of education as a teacher too, right? I felt like I had a mission. I get it. I understand it. So I had this Kantian moral imperative to figure out, don't bitch about it. Be part of the solution. So that led me back into the world of education. And, I think 3010 is full circle. Now I'm not tied down to the confines of the K-12 walls. But for me, it's I know that I need to be in strong state. State is made up by our physical, mental, and spiritual health. If any one of those are weak, my state will be weak. And then I have to deal with my shitty stories. And no, okay, stories. Hey, oh yeah, you didn't get enough sleep. Oh yeah, you didn't meditate. Oh yeah, you didn't eat well. Be kind. Let them go. They're just stories.
When you're in a shitty state?
Yeah.
What's one thing you do quickly to turn that around?
Physical. You could change.
And give me an example of a shitty state that you've been in recently.
Shitty state that I was in recently. Friday.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, if she had a baseball bat, she would have taken off my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that I was just letting things. I was just annoyed by my kids. They were just, and I saw.
So your reaction to
my
her wanting to kill you, you were in a.
No, by the way, she was in the right. I was an asshole.
Yeah. So that when you were an asshole, you were in a shitty state, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So your reaction, the way you handle that situation, you weren't in the right state.
The way that let me explain it like this. You asked, what do you do when you're in a shitty state?
Yeah. So that was an example of.
That was an example of me.
And what did you do?
I walked away. I took a breath. I did 5 breaths, and I did 10 quick push-ups. To be honest, drank a ton of water,
mm-hmm.
and in my mind, I said to myself, "Hey, okay, you're in a shitty state. Everything is really bothering you.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge yourself. Challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
See what you could do with this, right? Right. I recognized it. I owned it. But the way to quickly change your state is like physiological,
mm-hmm.
right? Physical. So I quickly did a bunch of push-ups. I drank a bunch of water. That often is my cause. I don't drink enough. That's quick shitty state, I think, for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. So exercise.
Exercise really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Get your heart rate up. With like an Apple Watch, you're able to see your heart rate. You know
mm-hmm.
what it is.
Mm-hmm. I remember, and it's interesting. So if I would do this more often,
mm-hmm.
I would probably find a lot of things being fixed quickly. A couple of years ago, when I was in the telecom industry, I remember I had a fight with my 2 partners, and I remember walking from like downtown from like 20th Street all the way to the Upper West Side, right? It's a long walk from the East Side, 20s,
nice.
and you walk through, in New York, you walk through so many different neighborhoods, which is awesome. So I walked
mm-hmm.
through like Flatiron, and then like Murray Hill, and then Times Square, and then Columbus Circle and Upper West Side. I remember by the time I got to the West Side, I just was able to see so much clearer. And like I remember that was like probably 7 years ago. And you just think so much clearer when you walk around, obviously, and when you exercise. Like my mind state was like total opposite than what it was before. From taking this hour-long walk.
And then the fact that you now know that, you have that.
And then I haven't done it since.
Well, you didn't really know to do it, or you didn't really want to do it. But now that listen, when we're in a shitty state, usually it feels pretty bad,
mm-hmm.
and we want to shift it, and we
or you don't know how to shift it. Like there are times when I just lie on my couch, and I'm watching like Netflix for hours, and you feel like crap. You don't think, oh, if I get up and go to the gym, I'm gonna get out of that state. Like I guess people think that just over time it'll pass, that shitty state, right? But that's not the way it works. You need to change your state.
You need to change your state. And listen, for me, since
you need to move your body, you need to get up, change locations.
Since I also measure this, like part of 30-10-0 is that you're able to measure and quantify what you're doing towards trying to achieve your 30. And
mm-hmm.
so I have the data for myself that showed me, hey, when you don't meditate,
mm-hmm.
you usually don't get a good night's sleep. When you don't get a good night's sleep, that week is pretty shitty.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like now I can't pretend I don't know.
Where do you want 30-10-0 to be in 1 year from now?
1 year, 12 months, I want 30-10-0 to be used by over 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have at least 25 strategic B2B clients using it with their people.
In 1 year, 1,000 people using your tool.
Mm-hmm.
You said 25
strategic partners.
What does that mean?
B2B, people that are using 30-10-0 with their followers.
Okay.
So that 1,000 users can be part of those 25.
And where do you get that number? 1,000 users.
It used to be
Is it based?
100.
Is it based on a realistic marketing strategy
Yeah.
where,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
was it just
No.
like, how do people choose like their goals?
They're arbitrary numbers, or you're asking, are they arbitrary?
Yeah.
No. So I try to surround myself with people that know a shit ton more than me. That's just my game. And so I have two people that, one is kind of the interim CFO for me, and we've been mapping out what it looks like, the capability. Now I just hired a chief digital storytelling, that now she has the metrics that she is trying to hit, and we have some like content that we're trying to create, and the goal is, and then we have a tool. We have a tool that is heavy on tech, minimal on people. So because of that, we should be able to hit that. We're about to come out of alpha into beta testing, so we're looking for beta testers. We have the capability right now for the first 2 months of 25 to 30 per. The way that we've been growing lately has just been word of mouth. That a user uses it, is shifted, is changed. She or he leads to someone else. So it's this kind of like exponential growth that's been happening through simply value driven. And so there's no reason why they can't continue with a little bit more storytelling fire and marketing firepower. So yeah, that's what my goal is. We'll come back in a year and we'll talk about that.
And where can people find you?
People could find me or my company. It's called 3010 spelled out.com. We're working on getting the numbers. Or all of the social. It's 3010. Instagram at 3010. Or if you just want to email me or you have any questions, it's Dan at 3010.com.
And for our listeners, I recommend everybody emailing Dan or connecting with him on social, because he will be a force in your life, and he's awesome, and everyone should know him. And I love you.
Thanks, man.
And thanks for coming on.
Awesome.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.